Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing?
Good. It's hot.
Yeah, I see the fan in your room there,
Yep.
Marco.
Yep. It's hot in here.
It got scorcher today. And it's supposed to get hotter the next few days. I wonder how people are going to stay in their houses and keep isolated with that. I imagine it'll be very interesting to see what happens at the beach this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not allowed on the beach. The beach is shut down.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to invent like a new AC or something like that, that's
Yes.
really low cost.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right. Well, let's jump into this. Thanks everyone for joining. I think we're all up and running. We're going to probably keep this a little bit shorter because I have to drop at 30 minutes after. You guys can continue on if you'd like.
Yeah.
Session number 6, April 23rd, right? Is it today April 23rd? I think so. It is. Thursday. So here's what I was thinking we would do. Let's just recap the last yesterday's session very quickly. Again, this is the Expo D Squad, the core team. All of you, I think all of you are on the line right now as well, which is great. We covered all of this. If you've been, if you've been part of this program and you went to the 5 other programs that we did in the 5 previous days, you heard us answer all of these big questions. Yesterday, we tackled what's the rest of the year look like? So what's the plan for the year? Like how do these days turn into months in terms of what we're doing?
And New Orleans Saints fan, Terry Connick Jr.
Somebody's got to put their phone on mute. Maybe I can mute you. Aha, I know who the culprit was too, because as soon as I muted them, it was quiet. Control. If you want to be a control freak, Zoom is perfect for control freaks because you can you're the master of the universe, right? So real quickly, what we covered yesterday, and we're not going to go through this at all day, but we basically said this is what the next 7-8 months look like to get us through the end of the year. And go listen to the previous session if you want to hear all about this. This was our methodology for preparing you all to be exponential entrepreneurs. We also talked about the fact that, we're going to use case studies and fireside chats and panel discussion and show and tell, and sometimes just get online and review articles. It's not going to be like a lecture, right? And Marco and team will bring their community in of young people in your shoes who are started their own businesses from your community. And then I've got my ecosystem all bring together, and we're all going to live happily ever after. Okay. And we're going to do this, even though it was represented as sequential, it's not really so sequential. We're going to do this with bits and pieces of all of that throughout the year, but predominantly it's going to focus on these areas will be the primary focus during those months. Okay. Any questions about, before we start the discussion today? Comments, questions from anyone? Okay. The chat room is open. I can see, whenever you see me looking up here, it's not because I'm daydreaming, it's because I've got a screen, a bigger screen up here I look at that I'm also logged into. So I want to have a discussion about kind of the new rules for an exponential entrepreneur. Before I do that, I have a poll that I want to run. And there it is. Can you guys see the question?
Let's see.
Oh wait, I got to launch the poll. Hold on. Here, let me launch it.
This is the key piece to show you. Okay.
And let's talk about this for a second. In your shoes, this is a question to you guys. In your shoes, I'm not in your head. I don't know what you think about your own skills, what you've already accomplished, what you haven't accomplished. But in your mind, what do you think are going to be the things that you're going to need to be able to do in order to have your own business and be an entrepreneur? Are there other things on this list, and how would you, unfortunately it doesn't let me rank this list, but how would you rank this list? Like, what are the things that you think you need to be an entrepreneur? Anyone have any, is there anything that someone would dispute on this list that's there that's not necessarily required? Or is there anything that I didn't put on here that should be on the list? Like, what's in your guys' head? Like, when you think like, man, can I do this? Well, wait, I don't have money to do this, so I need funding. I know there's a lot of tools to run a business, so I need some technology. I need people to work for me.
Yeah.
Or, what do you guys think?
I mean, I think, for example, college is like important, but it's not necessarily mandatory for entrepreneurs to kind of a degree or qualification, not necessarily very significant in being a successful entrepreneur. It definitely does help, but if you really don't want to go through that, then it's not really necessary. At least in some cases.
Yeah.
I agree with that, because like I've met some really cool like undocumented entrepreneurs who like they have what's equivalent to, I believe, middle school level education. And they've achieved so much even being undocumented and not even having a social security in the United States. So like definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, one thing I didn't have on that list was, which is a good point you brought up, one thing I don't have on that list is citizenship. Or the proper legal standing, not the proper legal standing, but legal standing that normally you need if you're going to get certain resources to be able to incorporate it as a business. So here's why I did that. I want you to think about the old rules and now the new rules. And what I mean by the new rules is, you need motivation, ambition, and leadership. Right? You need to like what you're doing. That was a Steve Jobs quote. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. So you need to find something you're passionate about. Otherwise, I can tell you right now, this is going to suck. You're just not going to be into it. It's not going to be successful. You got to find something you're pretty passionate about. And we're going to have whole sessions on trying to find your massive transformative purpose, your MTP, right? You also need education and knowledge, right? You can't make this stuff up. That's why we're here, is Marco, the team, myself, our guest mentors we bring in, we can offer some of that education knowledge. You can also, there's much of this that you need to get from your traditional schooling. We're not replacing that, we're just supplementing it. It used to be that you needed credentials. You weren't going to be able to get a job or be an entrepreneur if you didn't have some credentials. Like, who's going to invest in you or who's going to hire you if you don't have a degree and qualifications? You need money, you need good ideas, you need tools, you need people, right? These are kind of the basic building blocks, the fundamentals, if you're going to put a business together and you're going to do it well. You need these things. And what I want to share with you is, this is all being turned upside down in terms of the new rules. And I want to clarify what I mean by that, because this is kind of the old playbook. There's a traditional way to think about this, and now there's a new way to think about it with new rules. For example, the knowledge and education and credentials. Massive open online courseware. These are called MOOCs. This is a thing now. It started in the last 5-6 years, whereby there's plenty of MOOCs that are now out there. I mentioned Udacity, which is Sebastian Thrun, who I know, that was a professor from Stanford that did his first class online with Peter Norwig in artificial intelligence. They both taught artificial intelligence at Stanford, and they opened it up, their course, to the world, and they got like 100 or 200,000 people that joined like the first day type of thing. I mean, and so now he's launched a whole company called Udacity, and you can go it's basically the future of education. It's basically learning from experts, no matter where you are in the world. And there's just going to be more and more and more of these from, you've heard of the Khan Academy, which is kind of one model of it, but there's whole models that are essentially, in many cases, free resources, especially for high school students, right? So you have that the whole knowledge and education, yes, going to university. I went to university. I think that meant a lot more and did a lot more when I was your guys' age, because I absolutely needed a degree. Even if I didn't learn anything in college, I still needed that degree. That was the important, that's what got me a job. I wouldn't even be interviewed if I didn't have that. It's much different now. And also, if you're going to be your own boss, if you're going to be your own entrepreneur, what matters is you have the knowledge and education. The certificate means nothing in that case. And I'm not trying to discourage people from going to college. I think it's the right thing to do. I think you should do it by all means. I'm just saying, if that's not in the cards for you, that's not going to change your abilities here, because you can get access to this information. If you haven't already looked, and we'll share on other sessions where what we recommend are some of the better places to go get a very good quality education to be an entrepreneur. Now, you might not learn everything you need to learn, and it may not be the same social setting that college provides. So there's a lot of benefits to college besides aspects just to education. But I just don't want people to be discouraged if you decide you're going to wait on college, or you can't get into college, or you can't afford it, you know?
Yeah, and I also want to add that it's interesting to, you know, when we talk about credentials, and I'm sure we can probably have a whole session on just talking about this. But when I think of like credentials, like I do recognize that like it's helpful to have one. But in terms of becoming an entrepreneur, when like if you create your own business, your own company, and you know, this business that you just started can become its own like brand, its own entity, right? And so now this is like the platform that you use that is, you know, in many ways it can become equivalent or even more to like having a certificate. And so I think about that sometimes, where like, you know, that's an option that I think was not as readily available, you know, a decade ago even.
Totally. I mean, I went to Singularity University up at NASA's campus up in Silicon Valley. My friend Peter Diamandis co-founded Singularity University. I was a speaker on the speaker faculty there. 1 week there was more valuable to me than a whole semester at any college I've gone to, right? So, and they're not an accredited university per se from the standpoint of like the state has sanctioned them as accredited university, because they just, that's not their priority. Their priority is to get this type of education out to people that, you know, to professionals. So, I mean, that world is totally changing. I'm just saying the rules are different, right? There's very specific, even the universities are now offering, you know, in many cases, free access to the universities, to some of these top universities, Stanford School of Business, Wharton School, Duke. They don't have your school up there, Dartmouth.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Dartmouth has something as well. But you just got to go look around. There's enough resource out there where you can get educated, and you can actually pick and choose what you think format works best for you. That's the beauty of it. You might call on, you know, I went on Sebastian Thrun's artificial intelligence course, and I was like, it wasn't the right fit for me. It was like too, you know, it wasn't visual enough. So I decided to take one somewhere else, you know. So you can choose based on what style of learning you have. You can get the style of teacher that fits you best. And there's so many options for that. Obviously, things we talked about the other day with artificial intelligence and other means that will happen in the next few years, this is going to change again, the education piece. But right now, you've got all this access to this, to predominantly free resources. Let's talk about funding. So the old way, the way I had to do it, I had to go to a bank. I had to try to get to a loan, how to get approval. I mean, it was this whole process. Like, I actually remember going to a bank and dressing up as a young person, like in a suit and tie, to go get a loan for a business, you know, to get a business loan. Man, those days are over. Now you've got crowdfunding, which, if you're not familiar with crowdfunding, that's basically where you go online to one of hundreds of crowdfunding sites. There's many of them. And you basically are asking the community being everyone connected to the internet, you're asking them, will you fund my business? And sometimes you're asking them to fund your business. And if you get funded, you'll give them the product. So they're not even investors. You're just saying, if you help fund me, if and when I can deliver this product, you'll get the product first. There's also models where people can take an equity position. They can take a percentage of your company and fund you. but it's crowdsourcing, and it's growing more and more and more. And if you look at the stats, it's like every year this gets to be a bigger thing. And there's ones that do it for social impact businesses. If you have a nonprofit you're trying to fund, there's ones for commercial businesses. And have you guys, are any of you familiar with these? Like some of the popular ones like Indiegogo, obviously Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is real stuff. So if you're, if you're listening to this and you've never heard of this, there's a whole world out there of people that can, maybe they just give you $1, but you get 10,000 people to give you $1.
Mm-hmm.
And it's under then you have funding to go deliver what you're going to deliver. And you'd be surprised when you walk out there and you look at what's out there, if you research the space. And that's one of several places to get funding. The other place is venture capitalists and angel investors. Again, this is some stats. This is so outdated too. This is a chart from like 4 years ago, 2012, 2013. So these numbers aren't even relevant anymore. But $1.5 billion, and I'm sure that number is probably like, I would guess it's probably like exponentially scaled since 2012. It's probably $10-20 billion, something like that at this point. The other thing is you have angel investors and venture capitalists. So if you haven't heard those terms before, an angel investor essentially is someone who's a high net, it's called an ultra high net worth individual, a UHNW, ultra high net worth individual. That's someone who just has a lot of money, and rather putting their money in the stock market, they want to take some of their wealth and put it into small businesses, sometimes as part of a philanthropic ambition, meaning they're doing it in a social business, not just a commercial business. And there's significant amount of those types of angel investors out there. Many. I do some angel investing myself. I'm not a ultra high net worth individual, but I have enough disposable income where I do some investing as well. This is outside of the stock market and stuff like that. This is investing in entrepreneurs and startups. There's also venture capitalist firms, which are literally firms that are set up in order to take other people's money. They raise a fund, so they get people to put money in. Sometimes institutions put money in, businesses put money in, individuals put money in. They raise this fund, and then they use that fund to go select the best companies to invest in. And there's significant amounts of venture capitalist funding. The numbers are like through the roof. I think you brought this up before, Marco. One thing that you found in the last couple of years, I don't know if coronavirus will change this. It'll be interesting because some people lost their wealth. But you mentioned that funding was kind of abundant. There wasn't like a lack of funding. There's plenty of people that had money that wanted to put it into the startup scene, basically into people that had business ideas, some that were social impact related, right?
What's throwing? I feel like they're throwing people, like, there are organizations and there are, groups of individuals and individuals who are like just really, they're just looking for passionate, competent entrepreneurs who have like ideas that need some, funding to make it happen.
Yeah, so this is not you're doing nothing with a bank here, right? So there's a lot of ways now in terms of talent and resources. Hiring people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some people might be like, who's gonna work for me? I'm not 20 years old, or I don't know how to interview someone. I don't know how to hire people. Well, a couple of things are happening. Before you had to kind of attract and go through a formal process of recruiting people and hiring them. Now there are plenty of ways to get resources to do things for you. Just like crowdfunding, you can also do crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing means the crowd is basically, again, anyone that's connected to the internet. And there's a lot of people on the internet right now, right? Billions of people, and that's just going to double in the next few years. So the whole planet will be on the internet, in the next 5 years. We're talking 7 to 8 billion people. You're basically putting out a message there for people that are looking to make some extra money, saying, look, I'm looking for a data scientist because I don't know anything about data science. I just know I need one because I need someone to crunch some numbers. Or I'm looking for someone who knows and can operate drones, right? And I'll go get someone from the Expo D squad for that one. Whatever you want, there is somebody out there with it. You could say, I want someone who's an expert in nanotechnology dealing with material sciences related to robotics, like very specific stuff, and they'll be an expert just on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to put together a business that involves doing things with pets, so I want someone who's an expert in felines to consult me. Who's out there? anything you put out there, you're going to get someone who's an expert in. So you really just have to learn how to crowdsource. You don't have to be an expert in anything. You can be a generalist on everything, and you'll be the most successful entrepreneur, because all the experts are out there, and you can hire them. And once the angel investor or the crowdfunder or the venture capitalist or a relative or someone gives you some funds,
Yeah.
right?
And then even like what's interesting is like, because it's like, crowdfunding, and there are people also who they may not even like require or ask for compensation. They just want to like, especially if it's social impact, like they just want to be a part of a cool project and volunteer some time. And I know I've seen it on at Dartmouth where like there's this like formal thing through the Entrepreneurship Center where it pairs students who want to volunteer their time at a startup. And I know we had two volunteer associates helping us out at Fifth Sun in the fall, or it was fall winter, and so it's incredible to see that people are actually really willing to like donate their time and invest in like a project or an idea. It's just more of like having the like you as a founder, as a person with the idea, having the courage and knowledge of where to reach out, who to reach out to and where to reach out.
Totally. A lot of people it's called bootstrapping, which is a term. It's called bootstrapping, which means everyone's going to volunteer until we get this thing off the ground. And then if it gets off the ground and we're successful, everyone has you give them equity. Giving them equity means they have a ownership in this company if it ever becomes a company.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to teach you all about that in terms of how it's not a difficult thing to set up. I mean, eventually you can get templates off the internet that are the legal agreements if you wanted to make it legal.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if it's just people you say, look, I'll give you 5% of this company, which is giving you 5% equity in this company as sweat equity for your sweat, for your time. That's called sweat equity. That means you're not buying it. You're not going to pay me for it like an investor. You're going to actually give me your time, and your time is worth sweat equity, which means I'm going to give you ownership in the company, which means you can launch a business where you get with some people and you're all determined and you're all just paying you're all just paying through your sweat equity. So no one's getting paid because you're all doing it based on the promise that you'll launch this thing, and eventually you'll all have a company that has some value to it that you then will reap the benefit from. So again, no excuses. This, even to take this a step further, you don't even if you don't get funding on the previous discussion we were just having about crowdfunding or venture capital angel investing, even if you don't get that, it's not like the show's over. You can get individuals involved. And I was advising a startup this summer where, I was basically not getting paid. I had other things that I was getting compensated in other businesses, but for this one, I wasn't getting paid at all because I thought they had a great idea. I'll actually have this founder, we'll be on because he talks about spatial web and blockchain. I'll have him on at one point, but he's launched 10 successful businesses. He's exited at $100 million on several of these. So he's done very well. That means exit means he sold those companies. But of course, I'm going to go partner up with someone like that who has that track record, because if you put me and him and a few others together, we have a good potential to have success, but none of us are getting paid. We're going to do it until we either fail fast and fail cheap and call it a day, or we're going to launch this thing and it will be worth something someday, maybe in a year, maybe in 7 years, but eventually that will be our payday for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you guys might be in a situation where you're like, I want to earn income and I do want to get paid. So I do want to find an investor because it's going to pay me for my salary while I'm doing this. It's going to give you some compensation to live on. So we're going to talk all about that. But my point is hiring people, crowdsourcing, and software as a service, which we're about to talk about in a second. Here's some sites that are out there. Sometimes you can gamify the process, meaning you can get people to do things because you make it a competition. That's basically what XPRIZE does as a nonprofit. We'll talk about that on a future session. Okay. Capabilities, tools, and technology. Well, we've already talked about this. These were technologies that cost millions of dollars. Literally, I can remember 10 years ago, me doing projects for companies where we were talking about millions of dollars for 3D printers, millions of dollars for artificial intelligence developers, data scientists, using nanotechnology, robotics. This stuff was very expensive. It is all being democratized, as we talked about. These are exponential technologies. So as young people starting a business, you actually do have access to some of these, and you're going to have access to AI. My friend Peter says, and I think he says it from someone else, but Peter Diamandis says there's only going to be two types of companies in the future: those that use AI and those that are out of business because they don't use AI. And that's really the truth. Completely transformative. Don't think that you don't have access to AI. You can get online and start using that today at a nominal price, if not free. And we'll talk about that. So there's, there's tools that are already out there. For example, like you guys have heard of Etsy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Etsy is a store that you can go put your products in that store, and then they do the whole sales process and distribution process for you, right? So all the tools are there. 10 years ago, you'd have to build this all yourself. You couldn't just plug into someone else's store. Same thing with Amazon. So a lot of the tools and technologies, they exist today, and they're called software as a service. This is a screenshot of Amazon. This is how much it costs if you decide to get the package. It's $40 a month or 99 cents a month. 99 cents a month gets you distribution logistics. For $40 a month, you get operations, you get marketing, you get all these other areas. This is how much it costs to run a business. All these are software as a service. They'll do the distribution, the logistics, the operations, the marketing for you. You just pay a monthly fee. $40 a month is $480 a year to launch a business and have all these things. This was $1 million a decade ago to be able to have all this capability. So the world is completely different. The rules are completely different, right? And you can be up and running in a few hours as far as the business goes. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, you probably heard of these companies. They offer you email, they offer you sales. CRM stands for customer relationship management. That's like sales and marketing. They allow you to have word processing tools like Excel and Microsoft Word and documents. They allow you to have chat, commerce and finance, taking payments, help desk services, cloud storage, cloud computing. What cloud storage means is it's basically the supercomputers that run your business. You don't have to buy a computer. You just have a phone or a small, less expensive computer, and then you access the huge computing power in the cloud that Amazon will give you access to, which means you can do things like artificial intelligence and stuff. So these are all the new rules when it comes to being, this exponential entrepreneur. So I wanted to clarify that because I want to make sure that, again, the big focus here, I think, especially in these first few discussions, is to make people realize that, I don't know, Marco, it might be clear to you and me because you've done it,
Mm-hmm.
that all this stuff's out there. But right before you did that, you might just think, I didn't think this stuff was accessible. I had no idea you could crowdfund or crowdsource, right?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from the group?
Are you familiar with any of these topics?
What's that?
I know I'm asking if the group is familiar with any. Have you heard of any of this before?
This is a little bit of teaching you some new vocabulary so you understand the art of the possible. And this is just scratching the surface, but this is what you're going to get into.
Yeah, I actually, when you mentioned crowdfunding, crowdsourcing earlier through like Kickstarter, I actually recently encountered an entrepreneur who he wrote a book, and I just put on the chat, and he's selling it for 99 cents that teaches you how to use Kickstarter and GoFundMe. And he only sold it for 99 cents, and I imagine he probably has like, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000, plus people who, admire his work because he does this kind of work. And he probably is, just writing a short book on like how his company does crowdsourcing is making him revenue, and it's pretty passive. It's on Amazon, and and he has ways of sending them out. I bought it. It was 99 cents. Like, sure, I'll see what's in there. If it's not useful, then I just lost $1. I spend more on like parking sometimes.
Yeah, we'll have a whole week on crowdsourcing, crowdfunding too. So you guys will get really acclimated with it in terms of what's out there. Let me ask you guys this, and maybe you could all type it in there. I'd like everyone to type this in there because everyone has got an answer to this. What's something that you think you're passionate and good at? I don't care. Don't think about a business idea. Just in general, hobby, could be something creative, could be music, could be, you know, your poetry, rapping, tennis, I don't know, like yoga, cooking, like what's something you actually like to do and you think is pretty cool that you like to spend your time on because you actually think it's an area that A, you're really good at, or you'd like to be good at because it's fun and it's exciting and you're passionate about it. I want you all to type in there if you wouldn't mind, not just the core team, but everyone who's participating, like put in the chat message. And for those that don't know how to do the chat message, you down at the bottom of your screen, it says chat. You click that and you type something. Please put something in there. I won't read your name. The recording, by the way, when we record this, it doesn't show the chat. So you don't have to think that something you're going to put out there is going to be in the recording. You can be completely anonymous. I won't even say your name on here. But I'd like you to put something you're good at and something you like. Come on, everybody. I see people putting it in there, but please, I want to get as much participation as we can on this one.
Yeah. I think this also is helpful to kind of get a better understanding of your interests so that we can, plan, kind of talk about things that are interesting to you. Okay. Nice. Okay.
Good. So let's start with some of these, and if you haven't put yours in, please do. But all I want to highlight here, because this is a little bit ad hoc, so this is not how you do ideation to think of a business idea. But I just want to make sure you're aware. I can take it off screen share now too. I just want to make you aware that you got to think a little bit out of the box in terms of an innovative way you can come up with a business idea. Let me give you an example. I had this conversation with someone back in January where I was mentoring a person and asked them the same question. And he told me he was kind of disengaged from school. He didn't go to college. As a matter of fact, he kind of dropped out of high school, but he was a very bright kid. Sorry, bright young adult. And he's like, I don't know. He was a little bit shy. He's like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, well, what do you like? Like, what do you do all day? He goes, I listen to rap. I go, are you any good at it? He goes, yeah, I'm good at rap. I go, who says that? Your mom? He said, your mom's gonna say you're good at everything. So who says you're good at rap? He goes, no, I think I'm pretty good. My friends think I'm pretty good. So he rapped for me, and I thought I'm not an expert or connoisseur in rap, but I was like, damn, that's pretty good. And what I shared with him was like, perhaps somebody sitting in Greece right now, or sitting in Romania, or sitting in the United Kingdom, or sitting in, Alabama, or somewhere in the world, maybe they have a birthday coming up, or a wedding coming up, or some type of celebration, and as a gift, they want to have a customized rap done that they're going to play for at the wedding, or for the birthday boy, or for the graduate, and that's their gift. Rather than just sending a card, I'd spend $5 to have some creative person who could do a good rap customize something for me. So you set up a business online where you say, look, I need to ask you 20 questions about your life or about whoever's birthday it is. I need to know 20 things about them, and I'm going to come back and spend the next couple of days. I'm going to make you a rap, put it out on the website. You pay, you can then download it, just $5. And now you have a really kind of funny, cool rap that you get to play to surprise your friend. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? First of all, you could test that very cheaply. Like, it would be nothing to test it, right? And you might have a lot of fun with it. So you like doing it anyways. If you like doing it anyways, do it and try to make money doing it, right? So what do you got to lose? Number two, you might surprise yourself. You might surprise yourself because maybe someone wants a Los Angeles West Side rap, right? Maybe you have brand there. You have some brand equity. You have some credibility. You have street cred. It may not sound cool to you because it's all around you, but someone from Germany might be like, yes, I had a young person in Los Angeles do this amazing rap for me, you know, from Compton. You know, it has brand recognition, all that. And I'm helping support this person because they're an entrepreneur. I bet you could make money off that. I bet you can make money off that. See what I'm saying? You just take an idea that you're passionate about and you think about what's the product market fit. That's the hard part. Executing now with the technology to get funding, to get the resources, to get the software, that's going to be the easy part for you, especially on an idea like that. You could be up and running tomorrow on a business like that. So let's look at some of these other things. Someone said math. I would much rather like to be tutored from people in my community versus hiring some outside my community to tutor me, right? So you could come up with an innovative way to teach math that's different than has been done by the traditional ways of teaching math, right? And through Zoom conferencing like this, you could have people that sign up for a math tutor, right? And there's probably a lot of other ideas around that versus just, you know, the math one. You know, playing tennis. We talked about that model before. Maybe you're not playing tennis, but maybe you're helping everyone in the community enjoy tennis by using crowdsourcing and the sharing economy to share tennis rackets. There's only 30 of them in the community, but you got 100 people that want to play tennis. Why don't you put that in the sharing economy, just like Uber did with cars and Airbnb did with empty bedrooms? Why don't you put it in the sharing economy and see if you can't create a model that lets people share tennis rackets among the community so everyone doesn't have to buy their own, and you make money that way. And it's your passion because then when they rent the tennis racket, you can also sell them a lesson. And you offer that too. So what, you want to hit some of these, Marco?
Sure. Let me see. See, what could I come up with? We have, I'll do the math one because I like that one. So math is an interesting one, I think, especially because it's, you know, it's really focused on education. And because we're students, there's like, you know, we're really relevant to students. So, and this is one that would be kind of fun to do. So think of like Khan Academy, right? You have a platform online. And what you could do is you can actually offer online education. It's very interactive. You can create your own, like, you know, create your own videos online and get organizations, you know, to sign up like student subscriptions, you know, because there's a lot of like nonprofits in the community who work with like low-income youth, for example, and you know, they want to offer students services, and so they're actually willing to pay on a per user basis, right? So like, you know, and this is a true story. Like I've heard like, you know, in our backyard, like nonprofits are paying like 250 to like 1,000, 2,000 per server, you know, per user for like a service like math tutoring to like an outside organization. But, you know, and for me, it's like, what's interesting about that is that, like, you know, why many of these nonprofits, like, often, you know, they're kind of, their options are like to outsource that to companies that are not from the community. And so, you know, it would be transformative for like somebody from South Central, you know, who, you know, went to the public school system or is in the public school system, who really likes math, to create a platform and then offer the same service, right? And, you know, and not even the same, it would probably be 100 times better because it's personalized with your cultural understanding. And so that's what I would, you know, when I see math right there.
Yeah, that's a great example too. You know, that's the other thing is when I say we're trying to target underserved communities, meaning the normal business services are not coming to these communities. So if you created you could create your own math and accounting business that you serve South Central on an ad hoc basis. And yes, people will hire you because you're from the community. There's trust there. You're out of the high school. You know, you're local. They'll support it. You know, one of the things that I want to bring up here was around, let's see.
I have another idea, by the way.
Go ahead, Marco.
For real estate, for the person who made real estate, here's one, and this is actually one that really ticked me off once. So the problem is access to public facilities, right? So think of like LAUSD. So during the summer, most schools are closed, right? You know, because classes are not in session. And so there's all this like excess space that's owned by the government, that you know, or by the city or whatever it may be, by some government or a local entity, that isn't being used. And I've gone through like the process of trying to book space during the summer, and it's like so much paperwork. And so like knowing that there's an issue with like trying to book a space during the summer, in specifically you know, the school district, I know that that can be all automated. Like, why isn't there a you know, an online application that responds like with a here's your confirmation, and then kind of like Airbnb, you just put in this code and you can get into this facility.
Yeah.
But you know, there's, you know, people, you know, I think that just, you know, that could just be organized, and that's my idea for real estate.
I like that one.
Yeah.
You know, so someone had, you're into the car scene
Mm-hmm.
and handy at building stuff. So I'm going to give you a good idea for this one. And I'll invest in this if you want to launch it. I thought about this a while ago. I can get you donated a 3D printer. Okay. You could 3D print. I've got a Harley Davidson motorcycle. I put a lot of money in my I do, for real. I put a lot of money into my Harley Davidson to buy all this chrome. And I had to buy it premium price, you know, and there's custom shops that will do it. Imagine taking chrome 3D printing to where now you can build something for my car or my motorcycle to kind of, you know, pimp it out, so to speak. And, but it's completely customized, because the way the 3D printer works is like you could scan my head and I could put that, like, that image, not that that's a good idea, I can put that 3D printed chrome image on the top of my bike, right? Or I can have some encryption, like something maybe dedicated to my mother or a sister or a friend or someone that I can have 3D printed and then put it on the car somewhere. So it's all customized, like way customized. And the thing about 3D printing is complexity is free. Because the way a 3D printer works is it prints these layers by reading a digital file. The printer doesn't charge you more to create something that looks like this versus, I don't know, do I have something that looks complex in here? Versus something that's more complex that looks like this. This was an honor I got at the United Nations for being Innovative Leadership Award from the Impact Honors at the UN. Anyways, I could create this with a 3D printer, or I could create a little wooden block or widget like this to the printer. It's not any more pricey or any more complex. The printer's just laying layers. So you could get in business to where you're producing chrome or metallic pieces, because there's metal printers. You could produce metal things off of a 3D printer. So you can go online and tell people, hey, send me whatever you want. I can give you a bunch of options for designs, but we can customize something that matches your style, has engravings, whatever, and I can 3D print it. We can literally take a current part of the car or the motorcycle and just scan it with an artificial intelligence scanner. I'll have Avi Reichenthal. He was the CEO of 3D Systems. You guys met him back at Nava. He was the CEO of the largest 3D printing company in the world. Now he's got a lab up north here that does 3D printing. He'll be on the call at some point and share with you this technology, but he's got technology that will actually scan a part that you take off of a car, and then the system figures out how to reprint it. And you can reprint it, but it can take weight out of it, so it can change the integrity is still there, but the weight is dropped, so you can make it lighter, or you can make it just different. So all that technology exists. So if you like cars and stuff like that, you could actually become your own customized shop. And you just need a 3D printer. You don't need a manufacturing plant.
Yeah, I've also got one for another one. You mentioned filmmaking. This is kind of filmmaking. It's photography, really. Chris, like imagine like using artificial intelligence instead of having to, like, you know, for like graduation, you know, the picture that's taken, someone like manually putting, you know, matching the face to the name. You know, that takes time and resources. But like imagine if artificial intelligence, you know, you just upload into like the software, and then artificial intelligence would assign the name based on a picture that's already on file for the student. And, you know, that way, you know, you could not only scale how many schools you could do, but you'll probably get more accurate results, you know, with like, you know, matching names and student faces.
I see good at psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you can reach anyone in the world as far as sharing with them. A lot of therapists are now doing their therapy via Zoom, especially with the coronavirus. That's just going to accelerate it to be done that way. It's a little bit less formal. I think there are benefits to being in person, especially if you're dealing with psychology. There's actually it's probably the responsible thing to do sometimes if you're dealing with very delicate situations. But you can definitely launch a business around that and provide, maybe you call it coaching instead of psychology. I mean, you're just trying to give coaching to people to get them motivated, to get them excited. And so you have a whole model. And really it's just a matter of, maybe the fact that you're from an underserved community and you dealt with certain hardship in your life that makes you more relatable. People will be more interested in using your advice. And I don't mean someone just from your community. I mean, people from around the world might just be interested if like you were strong enough to, pull yourself out of your situation to be successful and to keep your head straight. Maybe they'd be interested in your coaching around that. You hear about a lot of motivational speakers that come from really, low income or in poverty, sometimes from poverty, and they made it out in a way that they can then share that inspiration, that coaching, and kind of so some of that could be a little bit related to psychology and coaching, right? What else? Anyone else have anything you want to share?
Anybody want to give it a try?
What's that?
Does anybody want to try just throwing out an idea? And what's cool about this is like, it's just an idea. You're like, no one's committing to this, and even if it sounds silly, like, it'd be crazy. That's how I think some of the best ideas probably come out. Just like saying something that.
Yeah, things like soccer, by the way, things like soccer and football and sports, if you really get into something like that, you can have your own podcast or your own YouTube channel where you pick up followers because they're interested. And what happens is we'll share this with you in another session. You can become a YouTuber where you make money off of the ad revenue. Mm-hmm. So if you post videos out there and a lot of people view them and you can get a following, which isn't necessarily easy, but it's not necessarily impossible. Mm-hmm. But you have something you can do to get a lot of people to follow your videos and you're doing it for money. Yeah. You put it up on some of these channels and there's ad revenue that you collect. They start to advertise on it and you get portions of that ad revenue. That's one out of many ways to think about that.
You know what? I'm thinking of a student from that's at Nava, who graduated from Nava, and I think Chris Noida will probably remember a student who would she would do makeup tutorial videos, right? In high school. And what's crazy is that she was probably like the shyest person that you could ever think of. But then and this I didn't find out until probably after high school, but she was an influencer on Instagram with what was it, 70 something K followers? I don't know how many.
Describe what an influencer is for people that aren't familiar.
So an influencer is basically someone who leverages a platform like YouTube, Instagram, whatever it may be.
Social media. Yeah,
social media. And they just kind of promote, they promote different things. It could be a lifestyle, a product, a service, sometimes themselves, just what they do on a daily basis, what, their ideas. And it's really about kind of having one leader, the influencer, to build a community, and serve, kind of guide them through whatever topic is relevant.
Yeah,
we should probably have her on the call.
That'd be awesome. Marco, get in touch with her for sure.
I can talk to her. I used to be really close friends with her.
Yeah. Isn't that? Yeah. And we've talked about it. It's crazy. She was just so quiet. I feel like I was in class with her once, and she's quietest person ever. Yeah.
Today,
yeah.
I'll see her in school, because she goes to trade tech, and I'll see her, and she's still really shy. She's still the same way she used to be.
Yeah. It's.
You should probably brand. What happens with social influencers? Brands reach out to you and say, "Look, you got 80,000 followers. Mm-hmm. I will pay you, $100 every time you tweet or you post something on Instagram supporting my brand." I mean, there's different models to get there. But yeah, I mean, again, the world is just a different place. It's just a different place. And you remember, this is half the people in the world that are connected to the internet. I can't emphasize that enough. We're about to double the number of people connected to the internet. So imagine how much more people can be following other people. So, it's not easy to make a living that way. but I'm just saying these are all areas, and you can, again, that's an easy place to fail cheap and fail fast, because it's just going to be, what do you got to lose? I mean, it doesn't cost you anything to even put these videos up. You know, to use the videos, the storage on the cloud, to make the videos, it's all, you know, as long as you got a phone to make it. You know, one of the things I would suggest too is, as we grow this network, because I'm just seeing with all the people that posted stuff, we just read a few of them, you know, like, I'd suggest the person who likes psychology get in touch with the person who likes filmmaking. And
Look, they're in touch.
yeah, maybe the person who likes basketball, and maybe you do maybe you go check out, you know, what's the basketball scene in South Central LA in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you probably could make a pretty cool documentary about that. And the psychology person in the room can make sure that there's some emotional insights from the whole thing, that it's actually something people will want to watch, because they're learning about other people and how other people are living and being part of the world and being part of life. I mean, it may not sound interesting to you because it's your community and your network, but I don't know. The question is someone else on the planet may be interested in what's happening in your neck of the woods? Maybe you could test it.
Yeah, and then for Omar, I think it was Omar that mentioned basketball. I know a student who's a community organizer. He recently, what he did with basketball was he organized an event where youth from Compton were playing basketball with a police department, right? And so that's something really unique, because like it's like he's like, you know, around our age. I think it's like 18 probably. But the fact that he was able to reach out and get, like, you know, a police department to bring out and, you know, and develop those relationships with the school, I think was incredible. But I'm sure, like, you know, and then, you know, I remember getting the results from that, like he did like some kind of survey results. And what's cool about that is, like, now the police department has data from, like, the people who attended this event, and they have a better understanding of kind of, you know, how to improve their policing and, you know, their efforts in the community. And, you know, so, you know, it'd be interesting, you know, do something like that, do these activities, finding a way to kind of get data out of it and provide it to, like, local agencies like a police department, so that they can improve community relations.
Yeah, that's a great point. So you just brought up, and we'll end on this because I think it's an excellent point, Marco. So it's brilliant that you brought this up, because it gives some insight into something, okay? A lot of times, there's a saying that emerged about 4 years ago, which is data is the new oil, okay? It's probably a bad analogy, because oil is actually negative in price for the first. Did you guys hear this on the news the other day? Oil for the first time got negative price.
Yeah, the barrel is more expensive now.
Yeah, because it costs more for the oil companies to store the oil than it does. So they just want to give it away. Craziness. I mean, talk about an upside down world with the coronavirus. Oil was, for the first time in history, negative. So maybe this saying is not as relevant anymore, but the saying was, data is the new oil.
Mm-hmm.
It's the new gold. It's called big data. It's all these sensors and all these social media sites and all the websites that give all this data that brands and companies and everyone can use it. Governments can buy the data, and artificial intelligence feeds on this data. It's just valuable, okay? And so what Marco just brought up, and we'll end on this because it's just a great point, because we're gonna talk about this. Sometimes it's not your primary thing that is of most value. It's the secondary thing of the data that comes off of your business that's valuable. Some people are sitting on tons of data right now, they don't even know it. So Marco just bring up a good point, which is in the story that you just shared, someone was doing something in the community with basketball and the police and everyone was getting together. That was not the business idea, or that wasn't the social impact idea. The thing that could be monetized, meaning turned into revenue or income for you, was the fact that now there was data about that whole interaction that others could use to understand, I guess in this case, the interaction of the police with private citizens and young people in the city. So data was the byproduct, it was the exhaust, but it got monetized. And that's a great way to think about it. And you always got to be asking yourself, is there some data play here? You know, that's what Facebook does, is they're selling data. I mean, to the extent that it's controversial, because the question is, are they invading your privacy when they're selling their data? But Facebook, it's not free. The product is you. You're the product, right? So they're selling you, they're selling your data. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have to invade people's privacy to have this, to do this. Like what Marco was just giving was basically the psychologist could maybe look, the psychologist in the room could look at that, observe in that, and pick all this data on human behavior that maybe the government wants to pay you for because they want to use it to figure out how to modify, I don't know, anything.
Yeah, they're not only willing to pay you for it, but they like need it. Like they need
it. Yes.
For a lot of organizations that like, they want to get this feedback, they just don't have the staffing and the people who are like from the communities to give them that feedback. And so,
yes,
really
I mean, I'm telling you, anywhere you look, remember we talked about how do you monetize and commercialize or drive for social impact? You just have to think about what you're passionate about. And then I mean, we're just spending 10 minutes here just brainstorming and doing some ideation, but you really can come up with something. And then from the previous discussion, the rules have changed. I don't want you to think, well, just because you have an idea, it's going to cost too much to implement it, or you're going to have people and resources and technology and systems. Yeah, you will, but all that is in abundance. It's all in abundance. It's accessible. The hard part is perseverance, focus, self-discipline, having knowledge, which you can get from a variety of sources, right? So, and then of course there's the big, bold business ideas, like where you actually launch a business to do consulting or to do advising or to do, to make things or provide a service. But I just wanted to play around with that a little bit with just, querying the group to say, what are some things you think you're good at and you really love to do? And hopefully you saw some line of sight about how you could turn these into business ideas. And that's just off the cuff. I mean, we haven't even really sat down and properly thought about it, but I just wanted to get you feeling like, man, there's something out there. The rules are different. All righty, guys. I blew off my other meeting for you. I was going to bail at 5:30, but you guys are too much fun.
Thank you, Marcus. Really appreciate it.
Anyone have anything else before we drop? Awesome, guys. I'm going to end this in our typical way. All righty. Let me just switch gears here to do our ritual. Share screen. You guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
See you tomorrow, Friday. That'll be our 7th session tomorrow. This was number 6, I think. And from all of us, we got your back. Now let's go exponentially disrupt this. There we go. Hey, do me a favor, you guys. In prep for the weekend, we'll talk more about this tomorrow, but let's try to figure out how to involve more people in the community that you think would be in need of this, okay? Because I'm feeling good about it. I think with all of us and the efforts we're putting in, the feedback's good from everyone. So let's, every week, this will be our first full week. Every week, let's see if we can get a couple more people.
Yeah, like you bring a friend, and these friends, they may be some of your team members for some of the ideas you'll have in the next few weeks. So think about that.
Think about it, because they'll want to watch the previous videos. I don't think they're too boring. I think they're all right. They'll want to watch those videos to get up to speed, so they're not, because we don't want to repeat ourselves every time. I mean, we're being a little bit repetitive as we get through these first few sessions, but eventually we're just going to get rolling. Okay?
Totally.
Expo D Squad out. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye, guys.